Welcome to the M-SABR 2022 recaps and previews. This first episode is going to be on the AL East, and I'm here with...
Lucas, I'm a Dodgers fan.
And I'm Matt. I'm a Yankee fan.
All right, and I'm the host, Nolan, and I'm a Cardinals fan, and I'm going to be in all of these videos. Be sure to check the timestamps below. Basically, the format is we're going to overview each team, recap the offseason, give a little gauge of the roster, and then at the very end, we will do the division predictions. So, timestamps are below. Make sure to check out the articles from M-SABR, and let's get into it. The first team we're going to be talking about is the Rays. So, as you can see, their starting lineup is Brandon Lau, Wander Franco, Austin Meadows, Randy Arozarena, G-Man Choi, Yandy Diaz, Mike Zunino, Manuel Margot, and Kevin Kiermaier. What did they do this past offseason? Well, they lost Nelson Cruz, lost Michael Wacha, lost Colin McHugh, lost Joey Wendell, lost Mike Brasso, and lost Jordan Luplow. But they added Corey Kluber from the Yankees, the reliever Brooks Raley, who always underperforms his expected, so they'll probably fix that, knowing the Rays, and Harold Ramirez. So overall, I would say they probably got a little bit worse, but what do you guys have to say about the Rays?
Yeah, so I think the DH Nelson Cruz is going to hurt. Joey Wendell's also a guy who I was thinking might hurt them. But I think Corey Kluber is someone who's had a lot of potential for a while. I know the Yankees were really excited about him last year, and I'm sure the Rays, as you say, will find something to make him good. I'm not sure he's going to go back to that dominant, Guardians or Indians Corey Kluber, but I think he can be a good guy out of the pen. And as far as Harold Ramirez, his swing is kind of weird. I'm sure they'll figure out something. It's really stretchy. So I'm not sure. I'm sure he'll be a utility guy in the outfield. Their outfield's pretty full. But Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, Corey Kluber, even if he's not the dominant pitcher that he was, he is such a useful teacher to the young rotation. Like they have McClanahan, who's still young, Yarborough, Shane Baz, Patino, all young guys who are still developing. I know with the Yankees, he worked with Michael King, and Michael King replicated the clue ball and had success with that. So even if he's not healthy and not pitching to it as good as he was, like he is still an amazing teacher, regardless. Like he will help the Rays rotation, whether he's doing it on and off the field. The Rays are going to be very fun with Franco, who they just signed to an unbelievable extension, which I was not expecting from the Rays to sign player to such a long deal, which to me sounds as if they think he is going to be an all-star every single season, putting up 4 or 5 WAR or more. And he's going to do it for a long time. He was a top prospect. He is going to be unbelievable this year. And you also have young guys like Arozarena and Walls, who's going to get some time at third base. The young core is really what's going to drive this Rays team.
Yeah, and I think kind of just in the opposite direction, Mike Zunino, looking at it, had a kind of breakout year in 2021, and he put up 4.5 WAR. And he's got Francisco Mejia kind of breathing down his neck, who put up an above average WRC plus this year. But Zunino is obviously an elite framer and can hit the ball a long way. But I'm not sure if he's going to maintain that. And some depth chart predictions have them kind of splitting time at catcher. So I'm not so sure who's going to get that starting job this year, but it's going to be interesting. It really is Francisco Mejia, who's been a long time highly touted prospect, originally Padres and then Indians, and now to Tampa Bay. And Mike Zunino, who's been around the league forever and always been kind of a sabermetric sweetheart. But we'll see going forward. That battle to me is going to be really interesting.
I think this is the last year with Zunino, and then Mejia will take over next year. I think Zunino has 1 more year in him.
Yeah. On that Franco deal, I think it's just because it was so long and such a team-friendly deal. Like, the longer that goes, the more team-friendly it's going to be for the Rays. So they probably wanted to capitalize on it. They can't continue to compete every year without at least a couple guys that are just franchise guys. Like, I know Longoria used to be that guy. Randy might be one of the guys they try to get for a couple more, but probably not because he's already 27 compared to Franco's 21. And we know how they operate. So, also Zunino, isn't he usually like kind of a platoon guy or like, or I guess he was good last year, but
Yeah, he was just good overall last year, and so I don't know if you transform him into if you let him hit against righties, or if you kind of protect him and just keep him going against lefties.
all right. I guess we didn't talk about the bullpen. I promise you, this is going to be one of the best bullpens in baseball. Do I know why? Probably not, but it's just the Rays. And I mean, even if you just look at the guys who they added, like Brooks Raley, most of the guys they usually pull up or add, they are people who are underperforming their actual batted balls. So once you put them in that stadium, the dome takes out all the other factors. They have a good defense. The bullpen will be good. The pitching as a whole will be good. So
Yeah, I think the bullpen and the fielding will always be a constant for the Rays. Is that like they're going to develop good arms and they're going to find out of nowhere, and also they will be smarter than most teams and they will shift well and they will place their guys. Kiermaier is still an amazing center fielder. Those two are constants in my mind.
I one kind of question. Obviously, we know Shane Baz, great starting pitcher prospect, and the last kind of nail in the coffin in that deal between that Tyler Glasnow and Chris Archer deal with the Pirates. But looking just kind of at his minor league starts and innings pitched, he does not average a lot of innings per start. He started 10 games in AAA in 2021 and only pitched 46 innings, so under 5 a start. Do we think the Rays start to let him eat a little bit and go 6, 7 if he can, just because he's been so good all throughout his career? Or do they protect him and kind of keep him in that 4 to 5 range and try to only get the best out of Shane Baz?
from what I've seen, they like to keep it at 5. They're just going to give him 5, pass it to the bullpen. And then if he can do that every single start, give him 5 really good innings, they're going to get hate for it, but I think they're going to stick with 5. I don't know. We saw how the reaction was when they took Snell out. Like, some guys want to go a full game, but the Rays usually just don't want to let that happen. So I want to hear what Matt has to say about that.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely in the beginning of the season start it 4 1/3, 4 2/3, 5 innings. Again, they're going to rely on the bullpen. They always have arms. I think the one team that really gets affected by the only limiting 5 options is the Rays. They're letting a guy pitch 3 innings and then sending him down and then bringing him back up. So I think that'll be an interesting balance, and maybe that lets Baz go further because they don't have as many bullpen arms. But I still think the Rays will be more conservative. This is a guy they have under team control for the next 5-6 years. They don't want him to get worn out early. I think that they're going to be more conservative than push him to the max.
All right. Overall, we think it's a good roster. I think I can speak for everyone when I say that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next probably 90+ win team. Next team we're going to talk about is the Yankees. So they finished 2nd or 3rd, depending on who you want to ask, last season. And they're in the offseason. They lose Luke Voigt, Gary Sanchez, Gio Urshela, Corey Kluber, Brunette Odor, Darren O'Day, Tyler Wade, Andrew Heaney, and Julio Rodriguez. But they add Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Josh Donaldson, Ben Rortvedt, and Miguel Castro. So the Yankees, having kind of a typical offseason, making big moves, as you would expect. Starting lineup as projected by Fangraphs is Anthony Rizzo, Aaron Judge, Joey Gallo, Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson, Gleyber Torres, Aaron Hicks, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Oh, and Kyle Higashioka. I think I'm going to go straight to Matt because he has something to say about the lineup.
I think one notable thing is DJ LeMahieu is not in this lineup, and I would be shocked if he does not play 130, 140 or more games. He is an ultra utility. We will see him a little bit at first base. We will see him at third base to give Donaldson some DH days. We will see him at second base if they want to move Torres off and give him some rest. He is going to be a big part of this lineup. So even though he's not in the starting lineup, he is going to be starting and playing a lot. And a lot of the struggles last year hopefully will go away and he will start hitting, and that'll boost the Yankees. And that's a common theme among a lot of the Yankees. Joey Gallo, when he got to the Yankees, struggled. Gleyber Torres mightily struggled as he played shortstop, which defensively woes moved to offensive woes. Hicks was hurt. Gary Sanchez, even though he's not on the team. So I really think the Yankees could be a positive regression team offensively if all of their lineup is stacked. If all their players play to the ability that they can and should, this team should be competing for a World Series. That didn't happen last year, which was mightily unfortunate for New York.
Yeah, to me, one of the interesting things is the battle for shortstop. I know they were in the running for Correa this year, and a lot of fans wanted that. And they ended up settling for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who I believe is a good defensive shortstop, but that's kind of where the story ends. And he can play a lot of positions. And so I'm interested, Matt, in what you think kind of is. I assume this is not the long term. I assume the long term is Anthony Volpe, but do we see him up later this year, or do we see them try to work through it with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, maybe a trade for a rental, and then go to Volpe next year?
I think Kiner-Falefa is someone the Yankees he's been targeted all offseason. We tried to trade him from Texas, and then when he moved to the Twins, we got him and we really wanted him. So I think Brian Cashman and the Yankees really love Kiner-Falefa. And I don't think Volpe comes up this year because I don't think he's ready. Like, he hasn't played above single or double A. But I think it shows that they really love Volpe. Not going out and spending money on Correa, Story, or any of the other big shortstop free agents. Like, they really think Volpe is the deal, and they did not want to trade him for any starting pitching or center fielder or other shortstops or any other help. Like, they think Volpe is going to be the guy. I really hope so, but that's the long-term solution at shortstop.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the starting rotation this year, and especially, I mean, it's been the woe of Yankee fans for a while, but will Luis Severino come back and be what he can be, which is an elite starting pitcher? But Garrett Cole and Jordan Montgomery at 1-2 is interesting in New York this year. I think I'm interested in seeing what Luis Gil can do. I know Luis Gil.
Heel.
I know he's got dirty stuff, and Nestor Cortez as well. It seems like there's a breakout in there somewhere, and there's a bunch of guys who could do it, but I'm just not quite sure. I can't quite put my finger on who's gonna go this year.
I honestly think that Cole, amazing pitcher. He's going to be a star. Like, he'll be top 3, Cy Young, like, no question. Montgomery and Nestor Cortez and Tyone low-key broke out last year. Like, they all had very good years. Tyone had a month where he was sub-2 ERA, AL pitcher of the month. Nestor Cortez went from a bullpen guy to a reliable starter on the Yankees. Jordan Montgomery had a streak of almost 2 months where he went every single time out there. He went 5 to 6 innings and gave up 1 or 2 runs. He didn't get the run support, which was the exact opposite of typical Yankees. I think the Yankees rotation and bullpen were the big strengths, and they didn't have hitting. They were losing games 3-2, which is un-Yankee-esque of them. And I really think if they could see that, if that bullpen is nasty, and we can get into that a little bit, but the rotation was really good. And if they can just keep up what they had, and the hitting's there, this team is scary.
Yeah, I really think, I know there was a big overreaction, a negative reaction to Joey Gallo struggling last year. I think Joey Gallo is not faced. I think he's still Joey Gallo. I think he's still an elite right fielder. or left fielder if Judge is there.
It'll definitely be left. Judge is
Left field, yeah. And a great hitter. And yeah, I think this lineup is gonna be scary with Josh Donaldson and maybe Higgy, maybe Kyle Higashioka breaking out a little bit this year and hitting possibly league average or 10 or 15 points above. I think that would be top of the division for them if they're really doing that.
I think there are a few things to look at. One, how much does Stanton play the field? We saw them with the jumbo package of Gallo, Judge, and Stanton sometimes. Depending on how much that is, we can get Donaldson to DH and things like that. Where DJ LeMahieu plays, that sort of is connected. If we have Stanton playing the field and Hicks not playing, we can get all of our guys in. And the last thing is catching. They let Gary Sanchez, finally the experiment is over. Although he mashes, the Yankees have moved towards a defensive mindset in catching. They have Higashioka. They just recently got Jose Trevino, and they also have Ben Rorkvet, and I apologize if I got that name wrong. All three of them are on Fangraphs. Higgy's at 40%, Trevino 37%, and Rorkvet 23%. I think it'll be very interesting to see if they carry 2 or 3 catchers, what the matchups will be. They were originally talking about like Higgy against lefties, Rorkvet against righties. I don't know how Trevino gets in there, but really the one common out thing between all three of those guys is they can frame. The Yankees are moving towards that, which is the exact opposite of Gary Sanchez. So hopefully that'll only make their pitching staff better. And the last thing I want to touch on is the bullpen. This bullpen is unbelievable. You have Chapman and Green. Loizaga broke out last year and is going to be amazing. Clay Holmes' sinker caused so many ground balls. Wandy Peralta was great in high leverage. Lucas Litke's spin rate on his curveball is something to look out for, and he was great last year. And then you also have, as Lucas mentioned earlier, like Luis Hill, Michael King. Like there are so many guys in this bullpen that even if the starting rotation is not as good as its hopes, like there are so many guys that will give you quality innings. Not to mention they lost Zach Britton for the year and don't have who once was like the top reliever in baseball. So that bullpen is going to be really good and something we're not really talking about.
Yeah, and also in there is Clark Schmidt, who used to be their top pitching prospect, right? And had some great years in the minors not too long ago. So he could also be a guy going for a middle relief spot this year.
Yeah, the 28 man roster in April will definitely be able to give some Luis Hill, Michael King, Clark Schmidt some opportunities in April and see what they got in the MLB before we have to shave down to 26.
I didn't even get to say a word, and you guys covered just about everything. I actually had scrolled down. I was about to talk about Zach Britton, and then you just covered it, and it was like, oh, well, luckily I scrolled, so they all know. Yeah, I mean, as a fan in the NL, I always keep an eye on the Yankees just because they're the biggest market team, but you guys definitely just went straight in, so I think that should cover the Yankees. Let me know if there's anything else you want to say real quick.
Can I talk about Aaron Hicks for a second?
Yes.
Aaron Hicks, switch hitting center fielder. He should be manning center field when they don't have the jumbo package out there. He once was an amazing defensive player with a cannon of an arm with a serviceable bat. If they can get that back, not make the 7 year, $70 million contract look stupid. Again, I can say this again, and I will sound like a broken record. If the Yankees can get what they should out of every single player on their team, they'll be in the ALCS or World Series, hopefully winning the division. Like this team has the talent, although they didn't go out and make that big splash. Like this team is still super talented, has all the stars, and should succeed.
And I think has the upside of being the best in baseball. Like if you see Aaron Judge and Stanton and Gallo and Donaldson and Rizzo performing how they, not even how they have, not even MVP type years, but just what they can do. I mean, this is a 103, 104 win team.
And you didn't even mention DJ LeMahieu, who was
I
back to
wasn't
back
even
top
in there.
five. But like,
Yeah.
there's so much talent, and this team is so deep. Not to mention like top 3 pitcher and Garrett Cole, amazing bullpen. Like, there is so much there, and as you say, like one of the best teams in the league is the ceiling for this team.
I always want to like talk about the archetype of the Bronx Bombers, you know, because that seems like they're really playing into it right now. They went and got Rizzo, Judge, Gallo, Stanton, Donaldson. Like, that's just like, when I just read those 5, it's like, you want to tell me who a Yankee player is? That would be the 6 or 5 guys I would go straight to and talk about. But
So I think very important moves. Gallo and Rizzo. Having lefties in this lineup is very important, because in years past, it was, you had Sanchez, who was a righty, you had Stanton and Judge and Voit, and it was all righties. And you put in a righty reliever who's good at getting out righties, the Yankees struggle in late innings. Having Gallo and Rizzo is going to be so helpful for this team.
Gallo just hit a home run in the highlight clip. just perfect. All right. I think let's take a look now at the rival Red Sox. All right, the next team we're going to talk about is the Red Sox. So we're going to go a little bit quicker because we don't have any Red Sox fans here. But starting lineup: Enrique Hernandez, Kike, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, J.D. Martinez, Alex Verdugo, Trevor Story, Bobby Dahlbeck, Jackie Bradley Jr., and Christian Vasquez. The guys I kind of hesitated on are because they added them in the offseason. So they actually lose Hunter Renfroe, Adam Ottavino, Martin Perez, Eduardo Rodriguez, Kyle Schwarber, and Garrett Richards. And they add Jackie Bradley Jr., Trevor Story, Rich Hill, Michael Waka, Jake Diekman, and James Paxton. So what do you guys have to say about the Red Sox?
So first off, I think we're talking about this a little bit before we got on, but I think we have to start with the fact that Jackie Bradley Jr. is projected to be the right fielder, which is blasphemous. He's going to be the center fielder for that team. He's a great defender, and not much with the bat. Kike Hernandez got a great arm. Speaking of Kike, I'm not super high on his ability to continue to hit against righties. I know he had a good year. He's a good defender. He can play all over. But as a Dodgers fan, I've seen him hit and struggle a lot against righties. But I think really the interesting thing about the people they picked up in the offseason is that there are a decent amount of pitchers on there. There are 3 starting pitchers. And that to me indicates they're not super confident in Sale's return or in Pivetta or possibly even Tanner Houck. That they think they need extra innings eaters and extra starters, to me means that there's something there, and that's the pitching is really where they're going to struggle. I think their bullpen's going to be fine, but the starting pitching is going to be a little rough in Boston.
Yeah, Eovaldi has broken out, and I think at this point is a good starting pitcher in the league. Will not worried about him. Again, Pivetta pitched very well last year, but there's definitely some current concern. And the 3 guys that Waka, Hill, and Paxton, I think they're just hoping to get 200 combined innings out of those 3 guys. There's been injury concerns. Rich Hill is ancient at this point. They're just going to try to eat innings. Like many Red Sox teams, I don't think this team's going to win with pitching. They're going to win with their massive bats in Devers, Bogaerts. Now you add Story. The big goal, I would say, for this Red Sox is, of course, if you can get quality, but second, eat innings.
Yeah. Sorry, Nolan, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, okay. I was just gonna highlight like Trevor Story. We did a whole discussion at our club meeting. He hits a lot of fly balls, so might work out well that he's in Boston now. It really depends on exactly what that spray chart looks like, but I heard that he was projected like 40, close to 40 home runs in Boston, which is elite if he can do it. And if he's doing that at the 6th spot, and they still have JD, Bogarts, Devers, Kike, the offense could be unbelievably frightening. Like that can carry a team if it works out as well as it can. So
Yeah, I've heard some making early dark horse um, MVP predictions for in favor of Rafael Devers. I'm not quite sure. I think he can reach that high, but he's been a great hitter. Struggled a little in 2020, but came back ferociously in 2021. And the defense is good enough. It's not great, but it's good enough that he doesn't drag down his overall value too much. I really think that this is going to be teams. This is going to be a team that's going to have to out hit everyone they play, and they probably will most of the time.
Yeah, I can definitely say it is scary late in the game when you have Devers, Bogarts, JD, Kike, and now Story up. No game is safe when that middle of the lineup is hitting and they're hitting well. That's where their strength of this team comes from. I'm a little concerned at first base with Dahlback. Jackie Bradley Jr., if he is the starter, he was abysmal last year. He had a 35 weighted runs created plus and a negative 0.8 WAR, which were the lowest for MLB players with 400 plus plate appearances. They are just hoping to get good defense, but 3 holes in the lineup if Dahlback and Vasquez do not perform. Again, they could be great, and Dahlback is a good young prospect who is supposed to hit well and could slug, but those are big potential holes if you're getting no production out of the bottom 3 of your order.
Yeah, I think one of the guys that could be really interesting is Tristan Casas, who's their first race prospect. Who's a guy who has had a 130 WRC plus in AAA last year. Granted, it was in 9 games, but the year before in AA to 142. He's a good hitter, and I think if Dahlbeck struggles or if JD Martinez struggles, which I know he did a little bit in 2020, they can slot Casas in and hope that he performs at the major league level. But yeah, this is going to be a team that's going to rely a lot on its pitching and its defense, which it is good at outside of a kind of shaky infield.
Yeah, their bullpen's great. Barnes did unbelievable. Whitlock giving up from the Yankees and as a Rule 5 pick has come and bite us in the butt, but he's been unbelievable. There's a lot of Ryan Brazier, good bullpen that will definitely help, but I think that the back end of their rotation and bottom of their order is shaky. So I think overall theme, they have the top end in both hitting and the rotation, and that really needs to carry their team. And if they get performance out of the bottom, again, this team could be scary if Vasquez is putting up a 800, 850 OPS season, Dahlback performs. It can be scary, but it also could be devastating if they don't get any production from that part of the lineup.
It does feel like, as you said, they're essentially just repeated. They could be good, but they're kind of teetering on 2020 that they finished 4th. I would not be surprised if they are 4th in this division, and not in the Blue Jays fashion of winning 91 games and getting unlucky. I think they could be genuinely 4th.
I think Cora is a huge add. The environment and atmosphere and the feeling of this Red Sox team completely changed when he took over. I think that I honestly would be shocked if they don't win 85 games at least, because Cora runs the ship very well. He did it well in Houston, and this team did not change much between 20 and 2021, but Cora, I think, unbelievable manager who really gets the best out of his players.
I think that just about wraps up the overview that we have of the Red Sox. We will talk about the specifics of our record prediction at the end, but we definitely, at minimum, they're at least a playoff contender, if not division contender. So Very solid roster. High end, could probably be the World Series. They're a threat. They were just in the ALCS. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Next, let's move on to the Blue Jays, who just added a lot. And we're back for the Blue Jays. So obviously, as you can see, Vlad Jr., absolute legend. But here's the starting lineup: George Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Teoscar Hernandez, Bo Bichette, Alejandro Kirk, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Matt Chapman, big addition, Kevin Biggio, and Danny Jansen. And then what did they do this offseason? Big changes. They lose Kirby Snead, Randall Grichuk, Marcus Simeon, Robbie Ray, Steven Matz, Corey Dickerson, and Kirby Yates. They add Yimi Garcia, Kevin Gausman, Yusei Kikuchi, Andrew Vasquez, Raimel Tapia, and Matt Chapman. So monstrous offseason. The pitching's changed. They're doing everything they can to finally get over the hump in this division. What do you got to say? I guess we'll start with Matt so that Lucas can go off right afterward.
Yeah. So I think looking at just their offseason stuff, I think obviously rough. Like Robbie Ray and Steven Matz replacement with Gausman and Kikuchi is about equal. I honestly think that Chapman is a downgrade from Semien. Semien was a great defender and also provided so much with his bat. Matt Chapman is a better defender, but not going as much. They lost Grichuk for Tapia, which, again, about equal. I don't think this team got that much better. They're different, sure, but they got so much production out of lots of players last year. They're going to need almost the same and more from everyone to be like unbelievable, which they easily can do. Like Vladdy can repeat and he can be a stud, but they really need a lot out of every single one of their players.
I mean, how long was Springer healthy last year?
That's true. Springer, but maybe that's a problem. Hopefully for them, Springer can stay healthy and then they have a lot better look at the outfield. But injuries are part of the game. Maybe Springer stays healthy and someone else gets hurt. Like that's just a part of this game, and you kind of have to assume that someone's going to get hurt. And last year is Springer. We don't know who it's this year. And this could be said for any team, like any team we've covered previously, like Rays, Yankees, Red Sox. Like one of their big guys goes down, like that significantly hurts. But yeah, Springer will be definitely helpful.
I think by the end of the season, probably when they go to the playoffs, because they missed out on the playoffs last year just because of luck. I mean, they had bad luck. I think this could be an offense that rivals the Dodgers and the Yankees, other top offenses in baseball. I mean, obviously Vladdy is going to hit. Obviously Springer's going to hit. Obviously Teoscar Hernandez is going to hit. Bo Bichette will probably hit. It's kind of his first breakout year this year, but I'm sure, and he's not an amazing hitter, and he's a liability on defense, but I think he's going to hit. I think he's going to do well. Matt Chapman has been has been declining on offense ever since 2018. He's just gone down in WRC+. He's above average last year, but by like 5 points. I'm not sure if that's a trend or if that's genuinely, he's getting worse. Change of scenery couldn't hurt. But if he has a weighted runs created plus of 115 or above, I mean, he's a 5.5 win player. He was 3.5 and he had a WRC plus of, 102 or whatever. I don't think, as much as I love Alejandro Kirk and his 5'8", beastiness, I don't think him or Danny Jansen are going to last the whole year. That Gabriel Moreno will take over there. He's been raking in the minor leagues, and he officially just got sent to AAA. He's going to be up. He's so good. He's not a crazy power hitter, but he's gap to gap, and he's a good fielder. He's got a good arm. I do think their one hole on offense would be Tapia. I feel like Teoscar Hernandez, interestingly, um, had like 4 or 5 outs above average in left and like -3 in right. So to me, it makes much more sense to put him in left, put Gurriel at DH, and put Tapia on right because Tapia is a solid defender. That would be your one kind of hole in the lineup, being Tapia, but I don't think it drags down the lineup a ton. And if you use him right, you could extract some value out of him. Their starting pitching is insane. Their starting pitching is great. Berrios was really undervalued last year. He was really good, and he's going to put up a 5 or 6 win season. Gausman was great. I am actually down on Gausman. I don't think Gausman is going to be as good as he was with the Giants. He was not great before the Giants, and the Giants coaching staff is unbelievable. The Blue Jays are great at developing pitching prospects, but I'm not so sure that they can replicate 2021 Gausman. He was heavily splitter reliant. And if the splitter isn't working, all his pitches are mediocre to good at best. But I think Alek Manoah is going to be really good. Alek Manoah had a really underrated year, and I think he could challenge for Cy Young, not this year or next year, but in 3 or 4 years. And if Nate Pearson breaks through, I mean, his ceiling is Cy Young. He's a great pitching prospect, and he has been for a while. And Kikuchi is good. I mean, the upside is there. He ended the year throwing high 90s, and he had a great year peripheral-wise in 2020, but he did not have a great year peripheral-wise in 2021 or actual ERA or FIP or anything like that. The strikeouts continued to be good. He's striking out more than 9.5 per 9. But I also think Ryu is due for a regression. So I really think this is a top 5 rotation in baseball, but I think it relies on Manoah and Pearson to do that. I don't think Ryu and Kikuchi are going to be amazing pitchers. I do actually, now that I'm thinking about it, see Pearson a little bit, because he has struggled with injury, a little bit as a Shohei Ohtani type of pitcher, who obviously Shohei Ohtani is great. But he was injured for what, 2.5 years in a row? And everyone kind of wrote him off as a pitcher. Like, he's injury prone. He's a great hitter, but he's injury prone and he's just not going to pitch. And he came back and was an amazing pitcher this year. And so I think people have the Nate Pearson train has left the station. And I think people are really forgetting who he is. He's a guy who can hit triple digits with a disgusting slider. And a good changeup, and I really think he could be at the top of the rotation with Berrios and Gausman if he's healthy. The problem with this team is the bullpen. They were the second worst bullpen in the MLB last year, only trailing the Orioles, who were terrible. And the way they got better this last offseason, was they got Yimi Garcia. Who's not great.
When you're behind the Phillies in bullpen, you know it's bad.
It's rough. I think they're going to go out and get a bullpen arm sometime this year. And I think Julian Merriweather can be really good if he's healthy. But that bullpen is not good. It's just flat out not good. And so, Matt, I don't know what you think, but to me, this feels like a 2016 team. This feels like they'll get to the ALCS and they just can't get past it, but the playoffs are hard to predict.
I think, as I'm sure you agree, like top 5 lineup, probably top 5 rotation. Very deep. You don't have guys you don't have Cole or DeGrom or Scherzer or these top of the line, like Corbin Burns. You don't have these guys that are going to go out and be your ace, but it's filled with a lot of guys who are really good and they're going to give you innings. I like having diversity and not all your eggs in one basket. You probably need 3 or 4 of them to have good seasons, to have a great, like a top 5-10 rotation. They're going to hit. Again, the bullpen, if late in the season, as arms get tired, this bullpen going to start blowing some games, and it with its expanded playoffs, I think they will probably be way more safely in the playoff, but way safely in. unlike last year, just because despite the bullpen, they're going to be up games 10-1 because their pitcher gives them good six good innings and their offense explodes. So I don't think the bullpen is important on this team with an unbelievable offense who they'll be up big in lots of games. But come playoffs, every game's close. You have 12 good teams in the playoffs with good bullpens and solid all-around teams. I wouldn't be shocked if in the wild card series they blow one of the 3 games, and that's the difference. Yeah. They really need help with the bullpen, and I'm sure they'll make off-season or mid-season moves to get bullpen guys. But everyone needs bullpen, and bullpen's going to come at a high price.
Yeah, and they really tried last year getting Brad Hand. I know before the season they got Tyler Chatwood. All their experiments failed.
And Kirby Yates, who was out for the year.
Yeah, and so they just really have failed there, and it's looking rough. The one thing that Blue Jays fans may be slightly worried about is Kevin Biggio really struggled. He had a good June where he had like a 950 OPS, but other than that, he didn't have an OPS over 700 in any of the other months. I am less worried about him, one, because of his track record. He's been good. 2, because you have Jordan Groshans there kind of waiting in the on-deck circle. So really what that gives you, because you can absolutely trade him. He's a third baseman. He's not a shortstop. He's a shortstop prospect, but he's a third baseman with a decent bat. The floor is high, but the ceiling is not. But some people have been surprised as to why they haven't traded him. But I think it gives you a safety net if Biggio or Chapman really struggles. I think you can. I mean, obviously Chapman's going to be at third because of his glove, but if he goes down due to injury, if Biggio really struggles, and Santiago Espinal was fine last year, but I don't think he's going to continue that into 2022. You have Groshans, who's a decent prospect, who's going to give you fine defense, who's going to give you a good bat. And if all those guys are hitting, then you trade Groshans through the season for a package of maybe a couple prospects and a good bullpen arm. So I think they're actually set up for this year. They have to figure out the bullpen, like, end of sentence.
Yep.
The one last thing I want to add is, like, we have not really talked about George Springer. A healthy full year of George Springer is going to make this team. That is what I could see for this team, putting this team over the top.
Yeah.
All right. And then I just wanted to belabor it one last time as someone who's lived in Detroit for a long time. 2012, 2013, 2014. The Tigers had the lineup. They had the rotation. One of the best rotations of all time. One of the best lineups that they've ever had. And the bullpen was so bad that it managed to throw that all away, and they never even really competed in the World Series. They made one, but they got swept. And you have to address it. If you're the front office, like, they're probably staring at this like, how do we fix it? Because if they do, they are a World Series contender. If they don't, they're just going to be watching another team celebrate the World Series after they came up just short, as always. So they better address it early while these guys are young, because it can slip away real quick, as I saw. So yeah, that's our very critical of the bullpen take on the Blue Jays. Let's do a quick overview of the Orioles. All right, we're back with the Orioles. So here's the starting lineup. Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle. So we're starting off real good. Anthony Santander, Trey Mancini, pretty good. And Austin Hayes, Rougned Odor, Ramon Urias, Jorge Mateo, Robinson Chirinos. Not the worst thing I've ever read out loud, but not too far off. And what'd they do this offseason? They lost Pedro Severino. They replaced him with Robinson Chirinos and added Rougned Odor. So, what do we have to say about this team?
I mean, Adley Rutschman will be fun. He's been really good. He's the number 1 prospect in baseball. John Means will be fine. If they might trade him for prospects. I think honestly, they have a good system. They have DL Hall, they have Grayson Rodriguez, they have Colton Cowser, who they just drafted. They're okay. Like they're not set up horribly. They're not the Nationals, but they are putting a pretty pathetic lineup on the field, and it does not seem like they have enough of a farm system to make them competitive ever. Without who plays second base in the future? Who plays shortstop? Who plays third? If Ryan Mountcastle is still hitting like as a 110 WRC plus, who plays first? Austin Hayes has had years to figure it out, and he hasn't done anything. So they have a good system, but they have a good system for someone who has 3 or 4 major league stars ahead of them. And unless they start signing guys to long deals, I don't think they're competitive till 2024, 2025, if that. I don't see this lineup, this team beating the Blue Jays, the Rays, even the Yankees or Red Sox, who are older. You're not touching them, with Adley Rutschman. And so, although I'm excited to see him, he's a switch hitting catcher who's been hitting great, and he's great behind the plate. It feels like it's a Mike Trout situation in waiting. Like it feels like this is just a great career that's going to be wasted on a team that can't compete.
At least Mike Trout has some good players around him.
At least there's Shohei,
And they really tried. Like they signed Pujols and Hamilton and C.J. Wilson, and they thought they were really doing it. And then Wilson kind of fell apart. Hamilton fell apart. Pujols even kind of fell apart. So they really tried with Trout. But
my problem with the Orioles is, where is their window? Like they have 4 teams that we just previously talked about that are all unbelievable. I don't think that their time is to sign guys, get up to, let's say they go nuts and get $150 million in contracts. Well, for what? Winning 75, 80 games in a division where you're going to need 90 to be competitive? Like Cedric Mullins, absolute, he's been great. Signing Rougned Odor, he'll bring some energy to this team that otherwise has no energy. He, on the Yankees, really brought energy and hyped up pitchers a lot, as he, I would assume, led the league in mound visits for non-catchers. But there's not much to be excited here. And also, I just don't see, there's no incentive to be good because they have so much ahead of them and there's so much work that needs to be done. I think the only thing that could save this team is expansion and a realignment, and they hope to get into another division without these unbelievable teams ahead of them.
Yeah. I mean, Cedric Mullins is almost certainly gone, right? You're not going to pay for that guy because he's good for, he's oldish. He's good for 2 or 3 more years, really good for 2 or 3 more years. And I am someone, and this is a slightly different discussion, but I'm someone in the past, in general, who says that tanking is good because teams have to be at the bottom of the league. And tanking at least gives the fan base something to look forward to in the future, where if everyone's trying, if you're at the bottom of the league, it's just pathetic. You just have nowhere to go. But I gotta be honest, a player gets good and they trade them away, like the Rays, what Rays fans have gone through, all 10 of them. It just feels like that's what's going to happen in Baltimore. Are you really going to keep Cedric Mullins? Are you really going to keep, Austin Hayes if he gets good? Are you really going to keep John Means? It's I think Adley Rutschman, there could be a case that Adley Rutschman and maybe Ryan Mountcastle are the only, and maybe Mike Baumann, who's in the pen right now, but who's probably will be a starting pitcher, are the only guys that will be on a above 500 Orioles team. I think everyone is gone. Everyone else is gone.
But who do you replace him with?
Well, this thing, you replace them with prospects because you need someone to play right field. You need someone to play left field. And it just feels like I'm absolutely with you on this, Matt. I don't know when their window is. I have no idea because teams now like the Dodgers are great now and they're going to be great in 5 years. And the Yankees are looking like that. The Blue Jays are looking like that. Like, I don't see those teams slowing down. I don't see those teams going, oh yeah, we're going to be good and then we'll be bad. Like the Orioles, as you said, the Orioles have to be really damn good. They're going to have to be really good. And I don't see them ever being that in the next 8 years.
Yeah,
Which is a bummer.
we've focused a lot on the hitting, and I just want to say, like, the pitching doesn't look better either. John Means is an above average pitcher who's gonna get the ball a ton because no one else is there. The rest of the starting rotation, I don't think starts on most other major league teams. Their bullpen, no bright spots there. It's just as bleak as their lineup, if not more bleak.
Yeah. And DL Hall's really interesting. I think he's a lefty who's throwing like high 90s. But okay, you have an extra guy. It's like he's not I don't think this team goes 500. I don't know when,
And they
I don't know.
haven't done it for a while, and they still won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you just like look at the ages of their team and where they're going to be this year, like very few of these guys can be around when they're trying to compete, and I don't see the guys who are going to make them good enough to compete coming up. Like Rutschman is one of them, but I don't really see a whole lot else. And then you look at the Blue Jays, like if you tell me they're not going to win the division in 5 years, then I don't know who you're talking to. So like I don't know. It's looking bleak. So with that, what do you say we go ahead and predict this division?
Oh yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, Orioles fans, just so you feel a little bit better, I'm playing your 2014 division champion video in the corner here. But while you guys enjoy that, the big boys are going to be competing for the top of the division. So what I have is the Rays winning the AL East in repeat fashion, just barely, against two improved teams by most standards. Well, at least in my predictions. For the Yankees and Blue Jays, the Red Sox take a little step back, but I think they still surprise a few people and get up to that 90 win mark. I just expect this to be really close. I wish I could pick one team to run away with it, but I think the Rays always find a way, and these other rosters are so well constructed outside of the Blue Jays, like bullpen and the Reds. We know what the individual faults are, but I understand why a bunch of people have the Yankees winning the division because their high end is so good, and I understand why so many people have the Rays stepping back, but I trust the Rays organization more than the Yankees recently, as much as many fans would rather that be the other way around. Yeah, so Rays 94 and 68, Yankees and Blue Jays both 93 and 69, Red Sox 90 wins, 72 losses, Orioles. I don't know where this Vegas projection is coming from, like winning 9 more games. Like, where are those coming from? Just Adley? I don't think so. 55 and 107. What do you guys have to say?
I mean, I guess I could just give
Go ahead.
1 to 5. I think I'm gonna agree with it and say Rays on top. At that 94-95. I think Blue Jays come second. Yankees come third. Just not because of lack of talent. I think someone's gonna get injured. And I think the Red Sox come fourth. And I said earlier that they would perform badly. I think they'll still be high 80s. I think that 87 number is a solid number. But I think they will be, genuinely fourth. And Orioles might win 45 games this year. They might not even win any. So, we'll see. But that's mine.
Yeah, I can say confidently, I also don't know where those extra wins come. I would guess they win. Their team has just gotten worse. I don't know. Orioles not going to be anywhere close. And whatever high 40s, low 50s, whatever you project them, it's not going to matter. I agree. And as an AL East fan, I'm going to be driven crazy in September if it is this close and every one of these teams could either finish first or fourth, depending on how good of a week it is. I think this Yankee team is different. And this is 100% Yankee bias. So take this with a grain of salt. I think this Yankee team, they added lefties, which they haven't previously. Their bullpen is unbelievable. Their bats are there. They always have been. I think this Yankee team gets close to 100 wins. That's my hot take and complete Yankee bias. I think the Blue Jays are second. Their top rotation and unbelievable hitting. Like, I think they come 95, 90, mid to low 90s. I think this Rays team takes a step back. I think that the pitching names just aren't there anymore. Like, they've had Glass now in previous years. They've had Snell. Like, they've had the top end pitching, and I don't think it's there anymore. They will surprise me every year, and they're going to overperform. I think they come in with like 90 wins. Red Sox, I would also say like 85 wins. I think that they're a good team, but I think there are three teams that are better, and they're going to lose and not do so well against the top of the division. But I have Yankees, Blue Jays, Rays, Red Sox. No Yankee bias. Absolute no Yankee bias saying they're going to win near 100 games. But that's my prediction. I think, again, like, this is going to be so close and so competitive. So I could see, you could tell me any permutation of the top four in order, and I probably believe you and say that your prediction is just as valid, if not more valid, than mine.
Matt, I know for you it may not be enjoyable, and it may be stressful and unfun in the last week, but for other baseball fans, it's going to be fun. This is going to be a fun team to watch, fun division to watch. I'm like last year when we were watching like 4 games at once, because if this team won this game and that team won that game, there could be 3 teams in. I think we're going to have something like that again, where we're going to be watching, the Blue Jays and the Yankees and the Red Sox all on one screen. And that's fun. That's fun. That's anyone can get in. And that is, in a way, playoff baseball. That's like you're competing for your season. And the more of that we have, even though all of these teams in one division does mean that one team might miss out, all these teams in the division also means that those regular season games they do play against each other, which I know is less now with the different schedule, are going to be like playoff games. They're going to be high intensity, high leverage. They're going to be fun. They're going to be a ton of fun. So I am looking forward to this division. Again, that's as an NL West fan. I don't have to deal with you guys until we get to the World Series. But yeah.
One thing to support my argument, last season of the series, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Rays, Astros, Yankees, Orioles. If it comes down, I like the Yankees over the Orioles more than I like any of those big teams. I really think it might come down to that, like looking at the last week and just saying, okay, which of these teams is playing? And again, like, the Orioles will have nothing to play for, or even if they do, I don't think that the Yankees trying to win 3 games, I would hope that they sweep, and maybe that's the difference. And it's literally just going to come down to who is the easiest schedule down the stretch, because it's going to be that close.
It could also, like, the Rays kind of have, like, well, it's on and off, but they have the Orioles a few times in the first month of the season, so it's like, in the Diamondbacks, so they kind of need to like build their lead, and then it's going to be one of those like DK Metcalf moments where it's like, who's going to be DK? You know, the Rays are going to be trying their hardest. Maybe they score the touchdown, but that's what I have. It's going to be super close no matter what. As we approach that hour mark, are you guys about good with this? You feel satisfied? You think the Rays, Yankees, you know?
No. Flip that.
Okay.
Yankees.
All right.
I say Rays Yankees. He says Yankees Rays.
All right. I think that does it. Thank you guys for doing this. It was a lot of fun going through this division. We really said what needed to be said. Thank you for watching, everybody. In the description, we're going to have more articles on these teams, so if you want to read even further onto each of them, feel free. They're actually already up. And then click through. We have up here on Matt's face, there is a video that YouTube recommends, and then on the left side, we've got the playlist of all the rest of these. So thank you guys for watching.